we're going to get into the details of this presentation in a little bit, tell you about the meeting purpose and what we need from you and what we'll ask you to provide to us. The main thing is I just want to welcome you. Thank you for coming. I want to thank Supervisor Brown for sponsoring the meeting. We want to thank the Stronger Hope Church for hosting the meeting and allowing us to use this fine facility. So if I could, Reverend Henry, would it be okay to ask you to open us up with some prayer?
Well, Heavenly Father, we thank you for grace and mercy and for the opportunity to fix this problem. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Thank you, sir. That's why we like it. My name is Bill McDonald. I'm with Wagner Engineering, part of the Wagner AJ-18 that is under contract to the Mississippi Soil and Water Conservation Commission to undertake the preparation of this watershed plan and the environmental assessment. I want to introduce you to some of the key stakeholders here, and then I'm going to turn it over to one of our team members to give you the details and to answer the harder questions. First of all, we're here because of funding provided by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Natural Resources Conservation Service. And we abbreviate all that by just saying the NRCS. And Mr. Ogie Lewis, State Conservation Engineer, is here with us representing that agency. Thank you for being here. And then accompanying Ogie, you want to introduce your colleague?
Yeah, Miss Laura Anderson. She is Public Affairs. She's the one that I get the news out. And make sure you guys get all the information you need.
Yep. Good. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate Laura being here with us. And also, Ogie and Laura's counterpart at the state level, Mr. Nick Ivey, is the Executive Director of the Mississippi Soil and Water Conservation Commission. And the commission, in partnership with NRCS, is carrying out this watershed plan. So these gentlemen, we appreciate them being here and participating in this meeting and providing their input. I'll ask if there's anything you'd like to say before we get started.
I'll just say that we're glad to have the funding through NRCS for this project. We look forward to finding solutions to the problems that you have. So we hope that we will expedite this project as fast as we can and make sure that the solutions that we provide in the end are the right ones. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nick and Ogie. Supervisor Graham, you wish to say anything before we get started? Let's just get going. All right. So the main reason we're here, we want to give you as much information as possible. We certainly want to answer your questions, but the main thing we want is for you to help us by talking to us about your concerns, help us identify the resources of concern that we need to evaluate in this plan. And Kalondra Jenkins is here as part of our team, and I'm going to ask her to walk us through just a brief presentation to explain the details of exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how you can help us. So, Kalondra, you want to take it?
Good evening, and thank you for coming. Tonight's presentation is about the Moss Creek Watershed Environmental Assessment. Bill has already gone through the lead agencies and the sponsors and cooperative agencies. This meeting purpose tonight is to present information regarding the watershed plan, review the initial problems and resource concerns within the plan, identify general alternatives that are being considered, and provide opportunities for you guys to ask questions and provide comments. This project is being funded by the United States Department of Agriculture and Natural Resource Conservation Services under the Water Protection and Flood Prevention Program, PL 566. The program's purpose is to provide financial and technical assistance to protect project sponsors, the state, local government entities, and tribes to protect and restore watersheds. This will assist with planning and implementation of authorized watershed projects. This funding and this program authorized purposes, the focus is flood prevention, watershed protection, public fish and wildlife, public recreation, agricultural water management, municipal and industrial water supply, water quality management, and watershed structure rehabilitation. The Watershed Protection and Flood Prevention Program, better known as PL 566, is a federally funded project, which means federal funds have to go by the NEPA process, which includes planning, phase and scoping, public participation to identify issues and resource concerns. Other factors include engineering standards, economic analysis, coordination with key governmental and environmental agencies, and environmental resource impacts. All of this falls under NEPA guidelines. It also includes PL 566 and PRNG. We have to comply with all of these requirements. And you've heard a lot about a watershed, so what technically is a watershed? A watershed is the area of land that captures rainfall and drains water into creeks, streams, and rivers. As you can see, the area outlined in yellow, all of its water flows to its creek, and in your watershed, all of your water flows to Hanging Moss Creek. Now, there could be, and then it flows to the Pearl River. I think the most popular drainage basin is another name for it, but the most popular drainage basins are Mississippi River Drainage Basin and the Pearl River Basin. So it's the same concept, it's just for the neighborhood. And this is the Hanging Moss Creek watershed. And the boundaries extend into Madison County, which is the city of Bridgeland, and some of the unincorporated Bridgeland. It goes all the way up to Lake Castle, all the way down to Highland Colony, all the way past West County Line Road, the Target. It goes over here to Old Kent Road. It comes down here to Sheffield Drive, and it comes around here to, not as far as Northside Drive, but Chastain, and it comes over here as far as Beasley Road to Hillwood Road. The main focus of this watershed plan is to reduce the duration and the level of flooding, especially for people along Beasley Road and the people, River Thames, White Oak Creek, and those closest to the Pearl River. But we're looking at the entire watershed to come up with a long-term solution. The root causes of flooding can be natural and human. The natural causes are intensity and frequency of storm events and topography, and the human causes are alterations to the floodplain and construction within the floodplain. I'm sure you all are aware of some of the human causes. As you can see, the first picture is how the river would naturally flow. Once it rains, the river swells, and then after the rain, it drains into its natural environment. But developers come in and decide that they want to build up to the river. They straighten the river, build up to the river, and then when it rains and the river wants to swell again, it floods homes. And these are pictures of areas where that has happened, where the water has come in, where the floodplain has expanded, and now you have to wait for it to go back down. But in the meantime, the property loss and damage. The one in the first picture is the Northeast Jackson flooding in 2020, and the bridge on Ridgewood just before JA. Some of the possible solutions to reduce flooding and to reduce the flood water. Structural solutions are a possibility. Dams or reservoirs, detention or retention ponds. To remove the water faster, we could look into upgrades to existing conditions, channel stabilization, channel widening, and to remove the risk, there possibly could be property buyouts, relocation, floodplain restoration, or floodproofing. Now, there are three alternatives. The one is the no action alternative. That's when we don't do anything. And this is the baseline for our watershed plan. we will compare everything that we do from how the existing conditions are met. And this is required by NEPA, PRG, and other regulations. Non-structural alternatives consist of watershed best management practices, flood buyouts or easements, or possible relocations. The final alternative could be structural. It could be dams, it could be channel improvements, it could be retention ponds, it could be levees, grass waterways, or drainage infrastructure capacity. And in this project, there won't be just one solution. It'll be a combination of a bunch of solutions. The watershed plan process is 3 steps. First, there's the plan, then there's the design, and then there's construction. Currently, we are in the very beginning stages of the planning stage. And from purpose and need to establishing existing conditions, develop alternative solutions, to drafting the plan EA, and to the final plan EA would end by December of this year. The next phase, once it's approved, will go to design, and then the final stage will be construction. So there are 2 meetings that we will hold during this process. The first is this meeting, the public scoping meeting, and the second will be once we come up with solutions or alternatives that we have found that is reducing the flood waters. And that will be an alternatives meeting. Once that's done, we go to design and then construction. We don't have a timeline on design and construction at this point. So what can you do? What you can do is what Bill stated earlier. If you could tell us other areas that we have not identified as areas that are flooding, if you could complete the natural resource concern form by either I handed it to you in the physical handout, or you can scan the QR code and do it electronically. And there was a QR code for that too. One thing I forgot to mention is that because these are federal funds, I know from previous meetings that we have, a lot of homeowners have stated that there's debris and things built up in the watershed. Just know that those issues are maintenance issues. So those are being taken care of on the city and the local levels. But this project is funding for the overall watershed plan. Are there any questions? Yes.
So you're saying like it's going to be a combination of probably building things and also possible land buyouts?
Yes.
So with the land buyouts, if you're reclaiming land, would you be possibly turning that into public park land, or how would that be managed?
We don't know at this point. Like I said, we're in the beginning of the process. We don't know what area needs to be bought out. We are in the infancy stages. We're just gathering information at this point.
Typically, though, the ultimate objective of a program like that is to restore that area. So, and that's typically one of the conditions also to a buyout. If property is bought out, then part of the terms of that is that will be restored and then preserved in perpetuity to some natural use. So that's typically, a part of that kind of a solution.
Yes, sir.
Is your handout available, or is it on the Wagoner website? Can it be accessed?
Yes. The handout is here at the QR code, or you can go to the project website, which is here.
Or we have,
And
or if you missed the table, we got them on the table back there.
Right. And the project website will list all of the projects that we're doing, all of the watershed projects. It's this one, it's Upper Bogachitta, it's Lynch Creek, and it's Lake Virginia. Yes, ma'am.
If the creek is causing some erosion in yards, is that part of this, or is that excluded?
Well, it's not excluded, it's a part of the overall plan, but I'm not sure we'll be doing the actual work. It could be something that's incorporated in part of the solutions, but it won't be us doing the work.
But when the creeks are getting just clogged with vegetation and you cannot use certain kinds of herbicides because it will down ultimately to the Pearl River, that's not part of what
We're-
you're talking about?
We are concerned about those kinds of issues, and we want to know about those and where those kinds of issues impact this watershed. Because that issues like stream bank degradation and erosion and sedimentation, all of those are pertinent to what we're doing. Ultimately, we would hope that whatever solutions are implemented would have impacts on those issues as well.
Yes, sir.
How much funding is available, and is it for just the complete job or just for the preliminary planning?
It's funded all the way through construction. Or funded all the way through construction, so all the phases are funded.
Yes, sir.
One of the biggest impacts of the Hanging Moss Creek is the tons and number of tributaries and streams that flow into residential neighborhoods that cause flooding, overgrowth, and the soil erosion along with the gazoo clay problem that is affecting many of the neighborhoods. Specifically, one is Woodhaven community. The major tributary that flows from Hanging Moss Creek enters the neighborhood at the intersection of Beasley Road and Hanging Moss Road. And along with other tributaries and streams, it has had a tremendous impact on the value of properties of many of the residents of that community. Will this project abate any of those problems at all?
We hope so. That's the intention. Those kinds of concerns are relevant to this project, and we want to hear those. And we hope, you mentioned Woodhaven and some specific locations. We would ask you, before you leave, if you haven't already, to visit our GIS table over here, or the hard copy map table, and help register those concerns, because we want to know about those so we can address those, hopefully. Take those kinds of things into account, because those are the kinds of issues that impact, obviously, the stream bed itself and the waterway itself. They have social and human impacts on economics, homeowner value, cost of flood insurance, all those, mental trauma, all those kinds of things associated with stream bank erosion and flooding. So we want to know about all those concerns.
Supervisor.
Thank you very much. I heard you mention buyout. Is that a least desirable alternative as it relates to the watershed project? Or has it been determined?
There has been no determination. It's just one of the alternatives that could come up. We were just giving you the gamut of what those alternatives could look like. That's not saying that it is going to happen.
Generally speaking, that is a last case scenario. On the thing, if there's no other solution to somebody's property that's in the floodplain, that's going to continue to get flooded no matter what we do, then that may be an option. But I don't want everybody to get the wrong conception that we're going to go buy everybody's houses out and move everybody, because
That's what I'm trying to get to.
that is not our intentions in any way. It just may be the only, if it's the only option, we might access that option. But
And the only other question I have that relates to the watershed issues is that we've been told that because of the Nissan plant or anything north into Madison County, that the expansion of buildings and roads in Madison County has affected the watershed downstream. Has that been determined or anything?
Well, this is Hanging Moss Creek's watershed.
Right.
Nothing outside of here is coming within these boundaries. All the water that falls within this area falls directly and goes to Hanging Moss Creek and then drains to the
Is
river.
there a tributary that comes into one of those areas from Madison County?
That's something we will have to study it.
But in answer direct answer to your question, White Oak Creek, yes, White Oak Creek, it's roughly the top half of that water, that green area, that watershed, is in Madison County. County line splits that watershed in half. Everything above that is drained by White Oak Creek, which begins roughly around the Natchez Trace, just above the trace, and so it comes down and ultimately ends up in Hanging Moss over in the McLeod area and then drains to the river.
But not Nissan.
No, Nissan,
That's the.
everything north of, basically everything north of Richmond
Yeah.
goes northward and then to the Big Black River from Mississippi. So it's two entirely different drainage basins.
What is the amount of funding for this phase and what is the amount of funding for the entire thing?
I'll have to let the funding agency answer that question.
It's $2 million for planning.
I'm sorry?
$2 million for planning, 1.5 for design, and then 18 for construction.
18 million,
Yeah.
not billion.
No, not construction.
Yes, sir.
On the website and in your Hanging Moss Creek front back 2-pager, there's a statement that says there's a plan in place to address lowering of tailwater in the Pearl River. So the objective of this plan, or Hanging Moss, is to address localized flooding and water resource concerns within the watershed. What is the plan in place to address lowering of tailwater in the Pearl River?
That is just a reference to the ongoing, never-ending evaluation of potential Pearl River flood control projects that are intended to drop the flood stage of the Pearl River. And I guess so that statement is just saying that that's not our objective. Our objective is to address the Hanging Moss tributary and its watershed, which obviously is impacted by the Pearl River. But this watershed work is not going to address Pearl River tailwater or Pearl River flooding. We're impacted by it, but we can't address the Pearl River with this plan.
Well, this reads like there's a final plan in place to address it, and it's not final.
No, that's just
Published by
a
Army Act.
reference. That's just a reference to the ongoing conversation about a plan.
Well, you need to change your statement.
Right. Well, I mean, there are all kinds of plans in place. It's just that, as you and I know, as you just stated, there's no time.
Yeah, I can name you a bunch of plans that I could spit off.
There's any number of plans in place.
You're referencing one particular one, but there's a lot of them. So don't assume that anything that we're saying is a particular plan. It's just a general statement. There's a lot of things that are going on in Pearl River, way north of the reservoir, south of the reservoir, all kinds of different places.
But, I mean, we don't want to cause confusion, so if that's potentially confusing, then we'll modify that language.
Well, everything is done over here already with Hanging Moss, and it goes all the way over to the Pearl River run. So the creeks, first of all, need to be cleaned out, and she keeps telling us that it's the locals, the city, and all that, and it's been over 20-some years, and these creeks are not going to be cleaned. Look at all the debris and everything that's clogging them up in the first place. And then this section right here, Hanging Moss, how far is it going to go east?
I can get more
It
specific.
goes all the way to the Pearl. And this watershed, at the end of that watershed,
It
is the
dumps
Pearl
into the
River.
Pearl right here.
Okay,
You
so
mean
it should, right, it
this
should
portion
go all
right
the way
here,
down.
this
all the way
portion
to the
is-
Pearl.
Okay.
And I wanted to make a point of clarification. I don't know of all the projects out there to lower flooding along the Pearl River, but I know that by law, the Pearl River Flood Risk Management Project, the aim is not to reduce flood levels, but to reduce flood damages. So whatever is implemented might not actually reduce any of the stage levels along the Pearl River. I do think that that's an important distinction.
Well, if it doesn't, well, yeah, we won't argue about that. You can't reduce the flood level, but you can't reduce the
There are things you can do, like the course A1 plan is all elevations. That would not reduce flood stages.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
So will the water that comes from the reservoir that is somewhat controlled, Well, how will the Hanging Moss Watershed support that, where when these neighborhoods receive that water, the Hanging Moss will be able to handle that and not cause water to come into our yards, especially the McLeod area where I stay, Parkway, Colonial, Candy Club, those areas, we receive those waters from the reservoir as well. So will that eliminate or reduce? And if it's going to reduce, is there a particular amount that it will reduce? So if we encounter floods again, and it doesn't even have to be a downpour. I mean, there's been times where we have had heavy water, heavy rain, and the streets are just covered in those neighborhoods.
Yeah. And the simple answer to your question is no.
Okay, so why not?
This will not impact the reservoir, operation of the reservoir, or the reservoir's control of Pearl River flows or stages. This is directed at what we can do in this watershed to make Hanging Moss Creek and its tributaries more efficient in the way they handle water. So we can reduce damages in the watershed itself.
Okay, so it does lead into the Pearl River.
Right,
correct?
yes.
So if the Pearl River is full, so you're saying that really there's no movement of water when you get that stage. Is that what my understanding of that is?
We're saying that we acknowledge that Hanging Moss particularly, and White Oak particularly, and other tributaries are directly impacted by the stages of the Pearl River. That's a definite problem. But this watershed plan is not intended to address that problem. We're not addressing the Pearl itself. What we're doing is addressing Hanging Moss Creek and its tributaries, how they carry excessive flood water, storm water. So we have to be aware of how we're impacted by the Pearl. But this project is not addressing the Pearl itself.
We will take into consideration what the Pearl does to this watershed when we're planning. But as you see, the Pearl River is not, although the end of it is where the Pearl River meets it, the area that we're going to be working in is in the watershed that runs into the Pearl. So we're trying to reduce all the bottlenecks in this area. If the Pearl River is high and everything in this area is flooding, I don't know if there's much that anybody does, right? Certainly not in this project. But there's a lot of things that can be done to reduce the flood risk. Flooding happens when the Pearl is not high also, correct?
Yes.
I was telling him earlier, I grew up on Sedgwick Drive
Yes.
in 1987, so I've experienced it for 30 years myself. I understand where that happens and how it happens. But we are not addressing the Pearl River. We are just looking at what it does to this watershed and making our determinations based on it. Does that make sense?
I can just say that as it relates to the Pearl River, there's another program or project that is under consideration that will, we believe, that will reduce the amount of flooding in Northeast Jackson by way of the Pearl, and that's under consideration right now. And I know that doesn't really answer your question saying that it's under consideration, but it's, I would say it's being highly considered at this particular point.
Because, I mean, my number one concern is every time we get a significant amount of rain, it doesn't even have to be much.
Right.
We always get an alert saying, be prepared, flooding. You can't get into your home because the water is covered.
Just like that.
And the Pearl will be fine at a perfect level. So my concern is if the vision has been implemented as you all are trying to design, how much would it reduce in these particular areas? Because I know White Oak Creek is one of in the McLeod neighborhood. So is that possible to provide some type of measurement saying that it can reduce by 25%, 50%? So
Not at this point.
not at
At some point, we will have estimates. When we get to the point where we're going to start designing these things and we know what we're going to put in, yes, there will be. We're just not at that point yet.
See, that's the goal, that's exactly the goal.
Those issues directly, but we don't have that information at this stage. Yes.
If I understand correctly, the important of this meeting is you're notifying us that you're trying to gather information and facts from us
Right.
as much as you possibly can so that you can come up with a design to possibly answer all of our questions and concerns based on all of our various issues that we have. Like for me, I have street, like road, somebody else has issues about fight or whatever. But all our various concerns, we y'all can take those facts and put those together and then come up with possible designs and then contact us individually based on our issues and get further information from us, inquire with us, and that's why we're putting it out in here so you can get back to us individually and get follow-up from us individually to come up with a plan to possibly address our individual concerns and then bring us back and go into further detail with us. And today you can't answer anything specific, no matter how much we ask you. You can't give us a specific answer. You're just going to tell us, but when y'all give us all the information, we'll come back at a later date after we've had time to investigate further. And then we'll come back.
This is really,
Wait,
this is the discovery
That's
stage.
correct.
If it was a lawsuit, it would be called a discovery stage. We're working on getting every bit of information that we can find.